It gives me great pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker this morning, Barron Witherspoon. Barron currently serves as the Global Vice President for Industrial Affairs at the Procter & Gamble Corporation, and as you can see, he also serves as a member of the Tuskegee University Board of Trustees. Like most graduates of Tuskegee, our speaker truly understands the value of a Tuskegee degree and how to leverage that experience in a corporate setting with an industry giant such as Procter & Gamble. P&G, as it's also known, is a company that comprises many brands, each serving customers in different ways, but all with a focus on making people's lives a little easier. And that's exactly what Trustee Witherspoon has done. He has been a consistent source of inspiration that motivates people, which is why he has done such a good job with P&G and because he's in the position that he's in. Many know how Barron gives back to the community through service on the Tuskegee University Board and is chair of the National Board of Directors for Inroads Incorporation, which is a nonprofit organization focused on the development and career preparation for talented, underserved students. Many are aware of Trustee Witherspoon's impressive climb from an entry-level role in field advertising to his appointment as Global Vice President at Procter & Gamble. Many also know that he is an ordained minister who authored the book, The Fallacy of Affinity, which describes his belief about cross-culture worship. Many do not know that Barron Witherspoon is a multi-talented orator who has reached back deep into his Baptist ministerial training and moved a crowd to tears with his emotional charged renditions of some of Dr. Martin Luther King's most famous speeches. Many do not know that Witherspoon's name has been synonymous with great horses dating back to the 19th century, or that the Witherspoon family gained a reputation for making great horses, like the great Tennessee walking horse. But even though Trustee Witherspoon lives an extremely busy, fast-paced corporate life, he is never far away from his farm and horses, even if sometimes it's only in the heart. In fact, I understand that one day he plans to move back to the horse farm, which he fondly calls Witherspoon Manors, his permanent home. To him, it isn't just the horses or the land, it's about love, belief, and values passed down through generations. It's about the legacy. And speaking of legacies, beliefs, and values, Trustee Witherspoon followed in the footsteps of his brother Greg. He attended Tuskegee University and became an SGA president, just like his brother. So before I close this introduction, I will let you know of another little-known secret. Becoming the commencement speaker at Tuskegee University is an item that Trustee Witherspoon can now cross off his bucket list. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome Barron Witherspoon as this commencement speaker.
Good morning. I was given explicit instructions by President Morris that whatever I said, it must begin with evoking the presence and the power of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Dr. King first appeared on this campus in 1957 and gave a rousing set of remarks. But I'd like to go back to the time just before his death, when he gave a powerful and poignant message that turned out to be prophetic. Dr. King called the message the drum major instinct. And I'd like to take just a few moments, about 2.5 minutes to be precise, to share an excerpt from that speech so that when I sit down, Dr. Morris will give me a handshake or a hug as opposed to a correction. Let's go back together. Every now and then, I guess we all think realistically about that day when we will be victimized with what is life's final common denominator. That's something we call death. We all think about it, and every now and then I think about my own death, and I think about my own funeral, and I don't think about it in a morbid sense. And every now and then I ask myself what it is that I would want said, and I leave the word with you this morning. And if any of you are around when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell him not to talk too long. And every now and then I ask myself what I would want him to say. Tell him not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't so important. Tell him not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell him not to mention where I went to school. Oh, I'd like for somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to be able to say that I tried to be right on the war question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to clothe those who were naked. I want you to be able to say on that day that I did try in my life to feed those who were hungry. I want you to be able to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to be able to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I was a drum major for truth. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that is all that I want him to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with the words of a song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian ought, if I can bring salvation to a world once wrought, if I can spread the messages as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain. You? I want to say to Dr. Morris, fellow trustees, distinguished platform guests, and the many friends of Tuskegee who have assembled here today, I bring you greetings as a proud alumnus of this extraordinary university. And as a man whose life has in many ways come full circle, I want to thank my wife and children for being here today. Believe me, they know more than most just how much I love my alma mater, Mother Tuskegee. My name is Barron Witherspoon, and I am a 1985 graduate of the Bremer School of Business and Information Sciences. 1985 was a significant year in the life of Tuskegee, not only because it was the year of my graduating class, it was also the year we achieved university status and changed our official name, which made my class the last to graduate from Tuskegee Institute. And so, in this moment, I am feeling a true confluence of emotions, and I'm fighting back the urge to wax nostalgic about the good old days. I'm fighting back the urge to describe for you exactly how I felt on May 12th, precisely 33 years ago today, when I sat where you now sit. Yes, indeed, I'm fighting back the urge to describe for the parents who are present here today how much and how precisely my own mother felt sitting here on Mother's Day weekend as a witness to this ceremony and seeing another of her sons earn a Tuskegee degree. But I will not resist the urge to say thank you to that wise old woman, and to ask you all to help me thank, with a rousing round of applause, all of the parents who are present with us today. Today is truly a significant and solemn event in the life of this institution, as we witness the 133rd commencement exercises for the spring. I'm told by the registrar's office that 490 graduates will join the ranks of our distinguished and accomplished alumni base. In its history, Tuskegee has conferred 45,922 degrees. So if you do the quick math, this class is well above average size. And yes, when we consider the task ahead, size matters. Now I know some of you are thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I'm finally here. I'm about to graduate and get my degree. All I have to do is sit here, be cool, and get through this guy's speech. Well, as we were fond of saying when I was SGA president here, I won't be long, but I most definitely will be strong. Reflecting upon your situation as graduates, I'm reminded of a biblical story which I think illustrates the point very well. The Apostle Luke, a highly educated man and a physician by trade, tells the story of Jesus as a 12-year-old. In those days, age 12 would be young, but on the verge of adulthood. Similar to most of you today, you are young, but on the verge of becoming adults in every sense. including, I might add, paying your own bills. And all the parents in the house said, amen. In Luke's account, Jesus has traveled with his family to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. When the feast ended, the family departed thinking Jesus was with them. They got a day's journey away from Jerusalem when they realized that he was left behind. And by the time they returned, 3 days had passed, and they found Jesus in the temple. So here's the thing. Luke says they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking questions. And Luke goes on to say, all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and his answers. And when his parents got there, they basically asked him, "What's up, dude? We've been looking for you." And Jesus replied in a matter-of-fact tone, "Why were you looking for me? Didn't you know that I must be about my Father's business?" In other words, they asked Jesus, "What's up?" And Jesus answered, "Stay woke." If I had to give this speech a title today, I would call it, "Stay Woke." Stay woke, graduates, because you are at an academic inflection point. An inflection point is both a mathematical and a business term. In math, the point of a curve along which the change in direction occurs. In business, it represents the time of significant change or a turning point. So I'm going to blend the two together today and describe it simply as a point of significant change in direction. And I would suggest to you today that our society has reached a point where significant change in direction is required. And I'm not just talking about politics. In fact, I'm hoping that my remarks today will have relevance for you regardless of your politics. I want to speak from my heart today and encourage you to stay woke, because you need what we have to offer, and we need what you have to offer. You are the change this great nation, and indeed the world, requires. Now, some of you will go on to pursue additional academic study in preparation for challenging professional careers. Others are sitting here today and you are thinking about this ceremony as an end to your academic career. You're thinking, finally, I don't have to go to classes anymore. Finally, I won't have to pull an all-nighter trying to meet the demands of these pesky TU professors. Finally, I can give my brain a rest and a little bit of relaxation. Anyone feeling like that today? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you cannot take that rest. Your mind cannot take a nap. You can't take the rest that somehow you feel your mind has deserved. Instead, you will need to be on full mental alert. You must stay woke, graduates, because 2018 is your academic inflection point. Stay woke, because any objective observer of society could easily conclude that we are living in some exciting times. But if they would be honest, they would also conclude that we are living in some dangerous times. Stay woke, because while we slept last night, around the world, they did not sleep. Stay woke, because around the world, 151,600 people didn't wake up with us this morning. Stay woke. Graduates, it is clear to see that we have some enormous challenges in our society and in our world. We need some prayed up and trained up leaders, some problem solvers, to get after the problems of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We need some highly intelligent and highly motivated leaders to go out and get something done. The stakes are high. The odds are long. But we have a secret weapon. We have you. You are the 2018 graduating class of Tuskegee. Give yourselves a round of applause. And you may ask, why are the stakes so high? The stakes are high because the very fabric of our society is being stretched in new and old ways. In one sense, we have the old and familiar challenges of how to manage the inequity between the races and between the socioeconomic classes. In terms of access to competitive education, access to affordable housing, and access to truly nutritional food. Despite this nation electing and re-electing its first African American to the highest office in the land, we still have many who do not fully participate in the American dream. Yes, those stubborn, persistent issues of inequity, poverty, addiction, and violence still permeate our communities. These issues, when coupled with the enormous and growing disparity between the haves and the have-nots, reveal for us why many are still being left behind. And sadly, these issues are the ones we have faced for decades, even generations, and they remain as significant and unresolved challenges today. I have traveled the world extensively, and I can assure you that these are not only American problems, but they are also global problems. I suspect everyone in this room was aware of these and similar challenges before we assembled here today. I also suspect that these challenges have occupied our debates in academic and in social circles in every corner of our communities and on this campus as well. These issues would be worthy of deeper discussion in our brief time together this morning, but I'm not going to focus on those challenges right now. Instead, I want to draw your minds to a different level of discussion. Most of you were born around 1997. You were born during the generational transition from millennials to Generation Z. The labels are not important, but the implication of being born around 1997 is that all of you are what sociologists call digital natives. For you, digital connectivity is a way of life. In fact, you know no other way to live. A third of the world's population has a smartphone, and today there are more smartphones in the US than there are people. According to Pew Research, a full 3/4 of all Americans actually own a smartphone. So chances are extremely high that everyone here has a smartphone. Raise your hand if you have a smartphone. If I want to create a crisis in your life, all I need to do is take away your smartphone. This connectedness is a tremendous asset to society. It has revolutionized the access of digitized information everywhere in the world without the necessity for travel. And it has enabled most of you to build extensive networks of virtual friends. We are all living in a digital age, and we are uniquely equipped for such a time as this. You, as a digital native, were born for such a time as this. So what is the crisis in society that is worthy of us discussing this morning? The crisis is that despite being so digitally connected, our society is rapidly becoming personally disconnected. I believe we are living in a time where the stakes are high. They are high because the loss of personal connection has a devastating impact, and I believe that this impact is woefully misunderstood, woefully underestimated. In the time I have remaining, I'd like to illustrate the problem with just two related observations, and then I'll speed on to my conclusion and take my seat. How many observations? How many observations? And I need you to stay woke for both. My first observation is stay woke because the future is already here. If we could concentrate for a moment, we would see the emerging picture of the future. It is a picture of total connectivity in a new economy. Not only is all information connected via the internet, but everything is connected in an internet of things. This means your refrigerator will talk to your stove. Your clothes will talk to your washing machine. And your cars will talk to each other. Smart sensors are being embedded everywhere. Even your pets have embedded chips which allow you to pinpoint their location using GPS technology. It won't be long before your kids will have chips too. I know it sounds strange, but you wouldn't want to accidentally leave your kids in Jerusalem. Not only that, but your robot will talk to your kids. Your watch will talk to you. And your spouse will talk to themselves because you won't be talking to anyone directly. Graduates, I need you to stay woke because the future is already here. And I get worried because when I look around, I see people are digitally connected, but they're personally disconnected. On any given Sunday, we can go to a restaurant, and if we observe a family sitting there together, they might all be on their mobile devices. I need you to stay woke because the future is already here. And we don't even have to make it to the restaurant. We can simply walk down the street and watch people walking with their heads down, staring into their mobile devices. They are passing each other without recognition or any form of acknowledgement. And by now, the problem is obvious. We don't know how to engage with each other as human beings. I don't know if this picture of the future is something that you like, but it scares the daylights out of me. We are on the verge of losing the skill of face-to-face communication. And if we have any hope at all of solving the massive and thorny issues I mentioned earlier, we must work collaboratively to solve the problems and create the opportunities for every citizen to reach their full potential. I need you to stay woke because the future is already here, and I'm not sure I like what I see. My second observation is stay woke, because there is a difference between virtual and real. There is a powerful emergent technology called virtual reality, or VR. Virtual reality allows you to create computer-generated scenarios and simulate experiences using a headset in a multi-projected environment. It is being touted as the future of collaboration. The problem is, it is not real collaboration. The name itself is an oxymoron, because there is a difference between virtual and real. Virtual is used to describe something that mimics another thing. To be virtual means to almost or nearly be as it is described or as it is seen. There is a difference between virtual and real. If VR or virtual reality wasn't enough, there is an emergent technology called augmented reality, or AR. And you may be asking, what is augmented reality? Glad you asked. It is a technology that superimposes a computer-generated image on a user's view of the real world, thus providing a composite view. Now, did you catch that, graduates? AR superimposes a computer-generated image on a user's view of the real world. The problem with the so-called composite view is we can no longer discern between what is virtual, what is augmented, and what is real. And through the power of social media, you are all building extensive social networks. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all their cousins are combining to extend your reach beyond anything your parents could ever have imagined. Studies are showing, however, that many users are so hungry for larger networks of friends that their networks are including a growing number of people they don't even know. In this way, there is no limit to the number of virtual friends one can have. But graduates, I need you to stay woke, because there is a huge difference between virtual friends and real friends. Stay woke, because the combination of these wonderful technologies can have serious and perhaps unintended consequences. Remember what I said earlier. The crisis is that despite being so digitally connected, our society is rapidly becoming personally disconnected. And you may be asking, what can be done about it? How can we avoid the pitfalls of becoming personally disconnected? And I would submit to you that there is an untapped power in two related characteristics. Stay woke, graduates, because what we are discussing could be the undoing of all of our society and what we have built over generations. To lose personal connectivity is to lose some of what makes us human. Human beings are social beings. We were designed to interact with one another in personal ways. To retain our hard-fought progress as a species, we must send out into the world a new breed of leaders with two related characteristics above all else: integrity and empathy. Unless we can feel the plight of our fellow man, we will never engage in his defense. The way we learn to feel what others are feeling is by spending time in the presence of others. Not only that, but we must engage with people around us in meaningful interaction. Over time, we learn their story, and they learn our story. This is the power of empathy. When Dr. Morris asked me to speak here today, I asked her to tell me what she could about your individual and collective stories. And my story is like some of yours. I grew up in a middle-class home, raised by a mom who worked 2 jobs. By most accounts, I was a good kid growing up. I applied myself in school, especially as I got older, and as a result, I generally kept out of trouble. In my sophomore year of high school, I was among the popular boys because of sports, and I was somewhat popular with the girls because I had good grades. With 10 days left in school, I got into a terrible fight on the basketball court during gym class. By rule, I was suspended from class for 10 days. The problem was there were only 10 days left in school. My mother pled with the administrators to allow me to take my final exams, but they refused. I was 16 and a straight-A student, and it seemed to me that my world was suddenly turned upside down. But I had a mama. And that wise old lady I mentioned when we started moved swiftly into action. I ended up sitting for the GED and graduated high school that May. I was given special recognition by the state of Florida for the highest scores in math and reading. I enrolled at the college where my mother taught, and when my high school class graduated with their diplomas, I had earned an associate's degree in education. I had a mama who could feel my pain and put herself in my shoes. I had a mama who saw my plight and moved with compassion. I had a mama with empathy. You probably couldn't tell this was part of my story by looking at me. However, one thing I learned over the course of 55 years of living on this old bitter earth: everyone has a story. Stay woke, graduates, because neither virtual reality nor augmented reality can ever replace true reality. And contrary to what anyone is selling out there, there is a major difference between virtual friends and real friends. Relationships is the way to empathy. We also need leaders with integrity. Nothing troubles me more than the notion that integrity somehow no longer matters. That somehow integrity no longer matters in leadership. Integrity is about doing the right thing even when no one is watching. There is a power in integrity. It is a discipline which I believe the 21st century leader needs more than the leaders of the past. Integrity is needed because the society is losing the guardrails which made integrity important in the past. Think about it. If a society is becoming less personal and we never have to interact with real people, then what will be the mechanism for keeping us accountable to one another? If we create leaders without integrity and without empathy, then what will compel us to care? And what will keep us from destroying each other? I know this is some weighty stuff, but I'm concerned whether we will get it all figured out. I'm concerned, but I'm not without hope. I told you earlier that we have a secret weapon, and the secret weapon is you, the 2018 graduating class of Tuskegee University. I'm confident in you to be the kind of leaders we need. I'm counting on you to be the kind of leaders Tuskegee trained you to be: highly skilled, creative, and industrious leaders who know how to apply knowledge and think critically about the challenges of today and tomorrow. I'm confident because I know from experience the quality of a Tuskegee education. I'm confident because I know that we share a common experience. I am you, and you are the better me. But I need you to stay woke. Each of us who have graduated here are inseparably bound with you through what we call the Tuskegee experience. The Tuskegee experience is what connects us to the bold ideals of Booker T. Washington, who saw the virtue of blending head and hand and heart to create a new didactic approach in higher education. It connects us to the creativity of Dr. George Washington Carver, who taught us to go beyond the obvious and see new possibilities for the common things around us. It connects us to the passion of Dr. Frederick Patterson, who taught us how to work together with schools with similar missions and expand educational opportunity. And yes, it connects us with Dr. Charlotte Morris, who has shown us how to lead with strength and dignity, with care and humility. And yes, it connects us with Dr. Lily McNair, our next president, who not only sees us as we have been, but who sees us as we will become. But not only that, we are connected in the joys and pains of our campus experiences. We have stood together in long lines. We have raised our voices in social protest. We have debated our perspectives on the yard and defended our ideas in the classroom. We have known the rigor of academic study well enough to show others the way. We also know how to let our hair down when it's time to ball and parlay. Most of us have come from humble beginnings, and we have learned to stretch the dollar. I was thoroughly convinced when I was here that I was the poorest kid on campus. I think they moved the registration deadline several times so I could get in school. But I remember students who knew how to think and professors who showed that they cared. At Tuskegee, we were never just a number. At Tuskegee, we were held to a high standard of respect for our elders, good manners, and respect for ourselves. At Tuskegee, we were trained to be leaders. We were expected to succeed. This is just part of the Tuskegee experience, and it is why I am confident that you will succeed in the challenges that we have discussed here today. This is your academic inflection point, and I need each of you to stay woke. We don't apologize for being bright. We were trained to make a difference. We don't step back from a challenge. We marshal our resources, and we make things happen. We don't make excuses for our mistakes. We own our own stuff. We are known for our integrity. We are known for our empathy. We are known for our ability. But I need you to stay woke. "33 years ago, a talented young group of students faced the reality of their graduation from Tuskegee. Among them was a young man whose experience was transformative. Today, I stand before a group of nearly 500 graduates who will leave this place with a Tuskegee degree. And I was asked to come here to bring a message of inspiration, but I'm taking my inspiration from you. You are the hope of a bright and more personal future. You have all that is required to succeed. You are ready to tackle the challenges that we discussed here and then some. You are the 2018 graduating class of Tuskegee University, and by now, every one of you is wide awake. Thank you very much.